This is MovieTone. Arnold
Gunmen reporting.
In accordance with the old custom of looking back at the year's end, MovieTone invites you to share the pleasures of recollection. And there have been some very pleasant recollections. The Royal Tour of South Africa, there was a happy triumph. The King and Queen and the Princesses covered the Union and Southern Rhodesia from the Cape to Victoria Falls and back, and their travels produced some glorious pictures at a bleak time when we needed something to warm our hearts. During the tour, the Queen made her first flight. South Africans will long remember this happy visit from their King and Queen. The royal family, indeed, has provided most of Britain's cheerful news this year. Who can forget the perfect fitness of the royal wedding in all its details, including the charm and personality of the two central figures? The whole world, it seemed, was united for once in its goodwill towards these two young people. It was Prince Philip's uncle, Lord Mountbatten, who sponsored one of Britain's great acts of statesmanship which marked 1947. As yet, we cannot tell whether the result is to be triumph or tragedy. India was divided into Hindustan and Pakistan, and boldly, the power and responsibility was vested in the two dominions a full year ahead of the proposed date. Some of the early fruits of that policy have been seen in the strife of communities and the flight of refugees from one state to the other. But there have been more hopeful signs as well. We trust, as do all responsible Indians, that this great experiment will be successful. Britain at least has proved her own good faith. And that's true also of Palestine. Terrorism and outrage have not moved the mandatory government or the British Army from their attitude of restraint, or from the declared policy of holding the balance evenly between Jew and Arab. Tired, however, of attack from within and criticism from without, Britain has cast the burden of decision upon the United Nations organization, where the vexed problem of Palestine is at last being appreciated. Palestine, of course, is only one of the dilemmas facing the United Nations, who have still to make peace officially with Germany. How many times have the statesmen met in conclave? We've lost count. The last occasion was in London. Mr. Molotov still said no. That's what Mr. Wyszynski said in New York. In between times, Mr. Gromyko said it too. The unsettled state of Europe was reflected in France, where General de Gaulle came forward again as the champion of the right. He won a big success in the municipal elections, but he has yet to extend it to the national stage. Meantime, his enemies, the communists, have struck the first blow by striking. In Greece, where America took over Britain's responsibilities and the support of the existing regime, there was spasmodic guerrilla warfare more or less continually throughout the year. From behind the Iron Curtain, little came out, except Mr. Mikolajczyk, who escaped from impending arrest and political trial. But now let's give politics a rest for a moment. How about sport and records? John Cobb pushed up his own land speed record to nearly 400 miles an hour. In fact, he exceeded this figure during one of his runs on Bonneville Flats. Sir Malcolm Campbell remains the water speed record holder, though he had bad luck with Miss Bluebird on Lake Coniston. The jet-driven, redesigned speedboat took first to snaking, then to porpoising, and eventually Sir Malcolm had to postpone the attempt to lower his own record. The airspeed record was captured by America from Britain by the jet engine Sky Streak, which exceeded 640 miles an hour. Another 1947 record, and a black one, the economic crisis. The first portent was Britain's fuel breakdown in February. The wicked weather of that month and the reduction of coal stocks combined to produce a crisis which stopped the functioning of British industry. Coal couldn't be moved, factories couldn't be supplied, work ceased. Unemployment suddenly reappeared. As for the weather, that was truly Arctic. The winter of 1947 will be talked about for decades, unless, heaven forbid, we get another equally bad winter before our troubles subside. After the snow and frost, the floods. Thousands of acres inundated, and another very heavy blow to agriculture. In the summer came the dollar crisis, when the convertibility of sterling had to be suspended by Mr. Dalton. He was compelled to produce a supplementary budget in the autumn, and his resignation ensued from a technical breach of the customary secrecy surrounding the Chancellor's proposals. Sir Stafford Cripps came in to mobilize industry and manpower for the mammoth task of closing the gap between imports and exports. Can it be done? Yes, it can, by hard work and self-denial. The miners hold the key to national recovery.
Let's put all our energy and cheerfulness into this job of building up our prosperity.
There is one thing more beside hard work and self-denial: unity. We need to recapture the feeling that we are one people. One people. When crisis threatens a clear cause like Dunkirk, we wade in work to the armpits and find new strength in work. When the enemy is silhouetted, the danger is seen for sure, and the sirens wail at sundown, there's nothing we won't endure. One people in our affection for a gracious, friendly throne, fond of the truest loyalty the world has ever known. When the princess leaves the abbey with the man of her own free choice, there are tens of thousands cheering, but all with a single voice. In every respect, one people where the common cause is clear, but sometimes most unwilling to see that the danger's near. Now is the call for action in the old grim Dunkirk strain. Yes, all we have lacked is unity, and that we must find again.